We're with John O'Gorman, principal and founder of Quantum Semantics Incorporated. John's been working in the space of data and disambiguation for some time with a strong focus on semantics as a facilitator for data centricity. John, thanks for joining DMC today.
Thanks for having me, Wade.
So let's actually dig into this a bit further. You've been using a language-first approach to data integration for a number of years now. Tell me a bit about that and why you think it's an important change in the way organizations think about their data.
Right. So the language first approach is basically a nod to the idea that structured data and semi-structured data and unstructured data is all made of the same stuff. It's all to communicate some business objective or business transactions or those types of things in a way that's consistent and sort of goes from end to end in that scale from unstructured to structured, etc. So part of the reason why this approach kind of came around is because in my career, it seems to me that organizations are dealing with more and more what I call tech heavy and speed of obsolescence types of things. And so what I was looking for and what I've developed is a way for business to get a hold of that whole great big sumo wrestler type problem of data integration and essentially increase their confidence in the ability to start with a less tech focused approach. So for example, classification, identification, I use 6 major classes of business language: who, what, when, where, why, and how. I've refined those a little bit to expand to 19 classes. And so far I haven't found class number 20. So I think the major challenge for business is to think a little bit away from tech and think a little bit more about communication.
That's great. No, I think I agree with you on that as well. Data-centric architecture is a new way to integrate application-centric data, which is kind of the norm in business today, to give business users better access to higher quality information. What do you think are the main challenges and opportunities for organizations considering this new approach?
Yeah, so I think that, as I said, the main challenge is that things are really, it's a really, really large, it's a huge problem. Even simple things in an enterprise like search, Google abandoned their much touted Google search appliance a few years ago. Actually, it stopped supporting it in 2018. And the reason that they did that was because they found that all of the algorithmic heavy duty kind of mathematical approaches didn't work in most enterprises. So I think, again, the challenge comes down to how do you approach a problem as large as data integration with tools that are going to work from the get-go. So it can't be seen as a 6 to 8 to 12 month project. It has to deliver results really, really quickly. I think the opportunity for companies is in a number of different areas, one of which is just to shrink their digital footprint. Most companies, by most of the research I've read, carry 35 to 40% too much data just by duplication alone. So when you think of something as large as the University of Calgary, for example, they'd have dozens, if not hundreds of applications all over the enterprise. And a lot of that data is repetitive data. So I think the opportunity with this approach, this language first approach, and with data-centric architecture is, first of all, to reduce digital footprint. The second one is to get quick wins. So when you tell people that you're going to build, for example, a service that will find all of the acronyms and codes in the University of Calgary or any other enterprise, and just put it in a central location, everything's web-based now, everything's in the cloud. You put it in a central location that everybody can access all of these acronyms, and all of a sudden they can find stuff. It's not expensive. It can be done in less than 3 months. And all of those acronyms and data values come from existing applications. You don't have to reinvent any of that stuff. You don't have to re-import it. You don't have to recreate it. You just have to find it, identify it, classify it, and store it in a way that people can get at it. I think the other opportunity is with an approach like data-centric combined with language-first approaches, classification and identity, you create a repeatable and extensible process. So it's sort of the wash, rinse, and repeat. So when you think about integrating say a student system with an instructor system with a finance system, for example. Those three things combined are of a significant size and complexity, right? But when you add those, when you add the value and the language from those three applications to your now very, very popular acronym and business term, say marketplace, you're actually increasing the access and availability of those applications without duplication. So if I find Wade Walker as a student and Wade Walker as an instructor and Wade Walker as an administrator, there's only one Wade Walker, there's not three. So you can put Wade Walker into the marketplace, and then you can point at Wade Walker in those three different applications. So it's all about making it smaller, but growing the marketplace from a simple, quick win, inexpensive thing like acronyms and business glossary out into actually much more connected data-centric value.
That's
I think
fascinating.
the other advantage, one more thing is taking this approach tends to lead companies away from vendor lock-in, because again, because the cloud is becoming more and more ubiquitous, you can leverage the web technologies to make this really, really sing on a small amount of money, and you're not locked in. In fact, the fact that you're not locked in means you can do some really cool stuff with it, like geolocation of data, etc.
That sounds pretty fantastic, actually, and I can say with some confidence that we have an awful lot of acronyms at University of Calgary.
Yeah.
The last question I have for you, John. What are some of the lessons you've learned about organizations getting started on the journey towards data-centric architecture using a language-first approach?
Yeah, my first one goes back to a couple of points I made earlier. Start small. It can be off the side of someone's desk if you have the right principles in your hand and the right classification and identification techniques, with a little bit of help. Acronyms, why not? Acronyms and business language, business glossary. It's what everybody wants to have, but doesn't know. They know most people know how to build a standalone application, but again, you're kind of getting trapped into that. Well, where does it go from here? So start small. The second one is really, really important, especially in my experience as a consultant. You have to listen and talk both up and down and up, obviously, but side to side and front to back. So the most important people that I talk to every day are customer-facing individuals who deal with data flows in their day-to-day work. Search is a huge pain point in almost every business I've ever been engaged with. They can't find the stuff they need to do their work. The second one is obviously the top down is, executive sponsorship, even for a small project like an acronym finder or a business glossary. You need support from the top. And you also need side to side. And by that, I mean, the folks in IT typically tend to be tech focused, and that's for a reason. They're more concerned with pumps and pipes than what's in the pumps and pipes, which, some people find that they want to try to change that. But my approach is kind of just let them do what they do best, but collaborate with those folks, because they can mean the difference between a successful project and standing out in the street with a box in your hand. So the final one is find a good working metaphor. It's not as easy as it sounds, but the metaphor that I like to use quite a bit is basically the change from, and nowadays it's kind of, I guess it's even more important, or at least more poignant, but the change from going to different locations to find groceries. Back in my day, there was, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, the dairy, all of those types of places that you went to and wandered around for a couple of hours and brought home your parcels. Now there's these things called, grocery stores. It's a great metaphor because all of the products in grocery stores have an identifier. They're UPC codes. They're universal. That's what the U stands for. They're also organized according to sort of logical connections, or collections rather. So for example, all of the perishables around the outside of the store, all of the non-perishables and things like knives and forks and things are in the middle. But they also have logical collections inside the rows and aisleways, which all the peas are typically together, all the, the carrots, all of the macaronis, all of the, the spices are all kind of in the same location. And that's a great working metaphor for people that are thinking about data centric, because in the digital world, going back to our acronym and business glossary, when you're looking at that collection and you can find things the same way you find things in a grocery store, which aisle, which shelf, which row, that type of thing, and which product you're looking for. It's the metaphor makes all the difference because it's something that the frontline people understand. It's not necessarily something the IT folks are fond of because it's not strictly very technical, but that technical stuff is in place in the model that I'm using. And I think if you appeal to the masses, as Harry Belafonte said, if you turn your back on the masses, they'll trample you in the dust. So I think if you appeal to the masses with a good metaphor, I think that works really, really well.
Well, actually, I think that in that case, you actually used a really interesting metaphor because the groupings that you referred to, the arrangement actually made a lot of sense. And I think it really brings it home what data centric might mean when it's a very nebulous idea still. And secondly, something you said earlier is that this is not necessarily a behemoth project. You can start small, with actually a fairly small investment, and actually you can still make progress towards the goal. So those are two, I think, really great messages.
Great.
John, thanks so much for speaking with us at DMC today. And I'm really looking forward to your event, which is taking place on December 9th.
Thanks, Wade. I'm looking forward very much too. Thank you.
Okay. We'll see you soon.